Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of The Cultured Gamer. In today's episode, Super Mario is breaking box office records, and we discuss a potential new PlayStation handheld. All that and more on The Cultured Gamer. And welcome everybody to another episode of The Cultured Gamer. My name is Jason Carmona, and with me today is Ernest Johnson. Ernest, say hello.
Yo, what's going on? Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, most definitely. We're going to have you back on a lot more often. So real quick, we're going to jump into it because we got a packed show today. Ernest, what have you been playing?
Indeed. I'll be honest. I've been really just the addiction, the XCOM addiction continues. It's kind of wreaking havoc on my fingers and thumbs. But I was really struggling in the beginning. Now that I've kind of gotten my bearings, it's a great game. I'm not having as much trouble, having a lot more fun, playing a little bit more risky, which is maybe not necessarily a good idea. I did find some time to jump into that new PS5. Um, Really playing that. I just cranked through the Astrobot game,
Nice.
and it is a fun little game. It's quite charming.
So you finished it.
I did, yeah. I
Okay.
just, I banged it out pretty fast. It was pretty cool. As everybody says, it takes advantage of all the features of the DualSense, and they are really cool. I just, again, hopefully more developers will use some of these really cool things that the controller can do. Again, it was quite a charming little game. I really enjoyed it.
It is quite the love letter to past generations of PlayStation.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, really. I really did like seeing that. And everybody told me that, so I kind of had an idea of what to expect going in, but it was still really nice to see, and I felt like the art style was just really imaginative. It just gives you that, it has like a little bit of that Nintendo magic almost.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, really refreshing.
Well, I've been playing a little bit more of Tekken 7, made a little bit more progress in the campaign. Kind of busy this week, so I didn't really get to play as much as I had hoped I would. Played a little bit of Devil May Cry 5 as well, just kind of slowly chopping through that towards the end of the next chapter. So just making my way through it, taking my time, no rush. We did learn some news at the end of the last show as we were recording about the Sega, Tencent, Ubisoft withdrawal from E3. As we were recording that episode, E3 was formally canceled for the year 2023. Ernest, your quick thoughts about E3 being canceled?
I mean, it's really sad. I'm not at all surprised, to be honest, because I know it's 2023. That just seems to be the direction that that the industry is going, and everybody's doing like digital and honestly, like even the big companies, I feel like in some ways they're using that as an excuse to kind of like save money and just be like, oh, you know what? If people are liking this and the trend is to just go digital, let's just save a whole bunch of money and just screw it, like we're just gonna save money and just do a digital thing. And then that doesn't I think dev times are a lot different now also, there's a lot more on the line because games are more expensive to make. So maybe they've been, some developers, maybe they've been burned in the past where they'll show like an alpha build at an E3 and it's a really expensive game and then people crap all over it because it's just, whatever, it's early or there's things that are shocking that they don't like. And then it like creates like a negative buzz or whatever. And then this way, when it's digital, they can kind of wrap up their dev, teams get their stuff with like a nice bow tie, make it look presentable and good, and then they can kind of control, how it's played and seen. So they'll have players playing it, finding weird bugs and talking crap. It's really sad though, because like, again, I felt like, E3 was just one of those trade shows that was really popular. It was a lot of fun. It generated a lot of buzz, not for a specific gamer studio, but just for video games in general. And without it now, with it being all spread out and not as like a big grand, stage for anything, I don't know, it just diminishes the excitement level of any project that gets announced to a degree.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. E3 is all about hyping up the industry to its max potential. And when you have these independent digital showcases now where they're like 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes each, and they're just focusing on a particular studio as as opposed to like the grand spectrum of E3 where everybody's under one roof. It can be very underwhelming, to say the least. And it kind of takes the thrill out of the announcements when everybody has their own show. It just becomes redundant. And E3, I felt like, was the culmination of the year's worth of work within that industry. This is what we've done. Here's our wares. These are the games coming out in the next year. The reason that the Reed Pop gave to the reason that E3 was being canceled was due to a lack of interest from developers, as well as their development time, like you mentioned, companies not being able to have a demo ready for E3. Here's the thing, though. That hadn't been an issue for the last 25 years. And suddenly with the pandemic, when people have more time on their hands to work, it's a big issue. And so, again, to me, it just boils down to companies not wanting to spend the money to pay for travel expenses, hotel accommodations, for setup. E3 can be very costly. We're not seeing companies backing out of PAX or GDC or other trade shows. It's just E3. So apparently there is something deeper that's going on and relates to the organizations that run that event, as well as maybe the placement has a little bit to do with it too. California is really expensive, and blocking off a good chunk of downtown LA for this week-long event can be very costly. It can create a lot of revenue for the city, but for the companies themselves, it does cost money. And what benefit is there if Nintendo shows up with the Wii U 2, or I'm just saying theoretically, when that year they showed up with Wii and debuted it, I was there, and the rest of E3, both halls were completely empty. And that's the risk. You spend millions of dollars trying to show off a game and hype it up, and then Nintendo has something that just blows everything out of the water in terms of hype, and everybody wants to sit down and go to that booth while the rest of the halls stay virtually empty in comparison. So to me, that was kind of the point where you started to see publishers starting to dip out of E3 a little bit. E3 went through multiple changes at that point too. I remember one year they were in an air hangar, and then they're back in LA. It was smaller. It only took up one hall, and then they were back at full force around 2010, I think. And then they started letting the public in, which really diminished the show's quality, I think. I'm not sure if you agree with that sentiment, Ernest.
I completely agree. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I understand. Like, if I wasn't if I didn't have a press credentials to get in,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just an over, I would understand. I would want to do whatever I could to get in, and
Mm-hmm.
even still understanding. Well, if I do that, then there's the chance that devs are not going to be showing off all these secret games because
Mm-hmm.
really only for the magazines and stuff to know.
At least not on the show floor.
Good.
Yeah, at least not on the show floor. Some of those wares would be behind closed doors or whatnot. I remember Metal Gear Survive one year being behind closed doors. The year that it was coming out, and they actually had a playable demo. It was upstairs behind closed doors, and it was for press only. They didn't have it on the show floor. So that happening more and more, and it's just Nintendo and Sony have already proven that they can have these successful digital events. Why do we need to bother again, spend millions of dollars? So it's a shame that E3 is gone, because I think the social aspect with the community coming together and networking, all that stuff is lost. Sure, they have GDC, but E3 was bigger in scale, more people attended, media eyes. So it's definitely going to be a major hit to the industry. One, I don't think the Summer's Game Fest is going to emulate very well. I know they're going to have a micro show floor with media only, which is kind of how it should be. But I don't really see that becoming the new E3 anytime soon, because again, it's just going to be a bunch of digital presentations. Nothing that's interactive. They have an interactive portion where they're showing off wares and they let you demo some of these games for a brief time. That would be cool. I think that would be a right step towards the proper evolution of what E3 could have been, and what maybe Summer's Game Fest will become. But we'll see. We're going to break down some of these breaking topics very quickly. There's 3 of them that we want to jam through. And then, Ernest, afterwards, I will ask for your opinions on the 3 topics. So let's bang through these real quick. The first one is going to be Xbox. Xbox has announced and is launching a practically recycled remix controller for Earth Day. Basically, it's a new 2-tone green wireless Xbox controller launching in time for Earth Day, which is April 22nd. Microsoft is touting that the game pads are made from recycled plastic, mostly things, recovered plastic from 1/3 of it made from regrind and reclaimed materials. It's also using reclaimed materials from like automobile headlight covers, plastic water jugs, and CDs to create this controller. This should be out towards the end of April, and it looks like it's going to sell for $85. Kind of high in price. The next topic, Phil Harrison has seemingly left Google Stadia, or Google as a whole. This news comes out as Stadia was moonlit and rode off to the sunset back in January, and it said that he quietly exited the company right around the same time as well, with news just breaking just now. Stadia was Google's entry into the gaming industry. They attempted to introduce a streaming platform that required no console, just a controller, and you could essentially just click on trailers on YouTube for video games, and it would link you directly to the game for purchase at full price. The next topic that we want to break real quick is going to be Shigeru Miyamoto stating that Mario will no longer have a future in the mobile market. It looks like Mario won't have a presence going forward in the mobile market, in the mobile space. Mario first jumped into the mobile space in 2016 Super Mario Run for iOS and Android. Within a few weeks, it racked up 90 million downloads. It's also said that all of Nintendo's mobile games combined have netted approximately over $1 billion since debut. Seems like a pretty significant chunk of coin, but regardless, Shigeru Miyamoto is not a fan of the mobile market and he wants out. So, Ernest, with all this news about the Xbox controller, Phil Harrison leaving Stadia, and now Mario leaving the mobile market, what sticks out to you the most and why?
I probably would say Phil Harrison leaving Stadia and leaving Google. We're not going to get into all the reasons, but I have from the start I've really not been with that whole Stadia streaming gaming thing, and I still feel the same way. And even if it improves, we don't have the time or space to get into all that. However, Phil Harrison, he kind of does have a little bit of a penchant for leaving when the going gets tough in some ways. I mean, he was with Sony for a good while, and then he he dipped out and hung out with Microsoft for a little bit, for just a little bit. He was with Sony for a while. In fact, he helped launch the first 3 generations of PlayStation hardware. And, I'm of the opinion that I own and love the PlayStation 3 and all that, but for my money, that was Microsoft's generation. And so maybe because of that, like PS3 did really great, but it wasn't like PS1, 2, or even PS4. So he jumped out there, hung out with Microsoft for a while, and he went and did some other stuff. And but he was always behind this whole streaming and gaming thing. Like he partnered with David Perry's Gaikai. Yep. And kind of helped get streaming going with the Sony and the PlayStation brand. And then he ended up, of course, after doing all that, of course, he ended up with Stadia and Google. And, once that kind of failed, he didn't stick around and try to, he moved on. So I think it's not surprising, but, that's all I got to say about that, really.
Yeah, so I have to agree. Phil Harrison's been a big advocate for streaming and supported the Gaikai movement. which was later bought out by Sony and implemented in their PlayStation Now service, which still exists as a part of the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tiers. They allow on-the-spot streaming for certain games if you don't have the space to download them and you just want to try to demo them real quick. You can stream select games on PlayStation Plus if you have the additional tiers. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Like you said, he kind of tends to bow out when the going gets tough, and kind of just looks for his next project. He kind of loses interest once they start kind of not doing as well as he predicts that they'll do. It's kind of a running trend with Phil Harris a little bit. And yeah, not surprised by that. The Xbox controller, I think for something that's made of recyclable materials, you would think that this would be a cost-cutting measure, and that would be passed on to the gamers and to the end-all consumer. But that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like this recycled controller actually costs more than a traditional controller, which doesn't make sense. If you're reusing recyclable materials, and there's a definite difference in quality, which I don't know that there is or isn't, but if you're using recycled materials and it's not first made, we're left to assume that there's going to be a slight degradation in quality of some sort. And I don't think paying $85 for recycled material is a good pressing point. That's just me. And then with Mario Mobile, I do think that Mario does best on consoles. The Mario Run was just kind of that. It's just kind of like a tap and go game. It doesn't have any real meat on the bones or anything like that. It's not like a real Mario experience. And the Mario Kart is kind of the same way. It's just kind of like a tap and go, slide your thumb across the screen type thing. It's just something you play when you're in line bored. It's not like a real gaming experience. So I think Nintendo is better suited, not wasting their time on mobile, because mobile is kind of a niche market anyways in terms of gaming. It's a lot of free-to-play nonsense with ads and stuff like that. Nintendo is not really about that. They make a lot of money off that stuff, sure, because they're Nintendo and their IPs, but yeah, it's not where the business is at. And I think it kind of takes attention away from their mobile market, which is, the Switch. If you're playing games on your mobile, you're not playing games on the Switch, and they want you playing games on the Switch on the go. So I definitely see that hindering their potential numbers with the Switch as well. Let's move on to one of our main topics today. It seems that developers at Namco Bandai, specifically the Tekken 8 producers, are having a very hard time developing this game, and they're not very happy. So let me read this article that we got from The Gamer. Basically, they break it down and say Tekken 8 is rather more visually impressive than the previous entries, which I would agree with. It looks fantastic. However, the producers think Unreal Engine 5 has been difficult to fine-tune, basically stating that it's been difficult to fine-tune the graphics. It's not as friendly as maybe the past iteration of Unreal in some aspects, and they are having difficulties with this. Ernest, what do you make of the producers complaining about Unreal Engine 5 and having difficulties producing the game's in-game graphics?
First, I'll just kind of say regarding Unreal Engine 5, I feel it was a little bit premature for them to announce that they were developing this game using Unreal Engine 5. It's cool. I mean, because I feel like Unreal Engine 5 is going to be a really big engine in the future. I don't think we're there yet. I think what would have been perhaps more wise would, personally, I feel like delaying Tekken 8 and not even really starting it now until Unreal Engine 5 has kind of matured a little bit more. Developers have found little shortcuts and good ways to better use it, so that once it's been around and used for a couple of years, Namco can jump in and be like, okay, it's kind of mature. We have a better idea of what we're doing now. We can really tap into it and really take advantage of it, especially with the flagship game like Tekken. And of course, I would love to see another Ridge Racer utilize it, but that's for another time and place. But
the Ridge, that's funny. I'm going to cut you off right there, because the last time we had a numbered Ridge Racer entry was for the launch of the Xbox 360 and PS3.
PS3, yeah, we had Ridge Racer 7, and it's been
It's a
you know,
crime.
Mom's been the word on that as far as a real Ridge Racer game. We had like I think we had like Unbounded or some other, but that's we all know that's not real Ridge Racer, so we don't
Right.
even yeah, at least in my opinion. But and we also kind of disagree here. But when Tekken 8 was first shown, I wasn't really impressed with the graphics.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's not to say that it didn't look good. It looked great, looked amazing. Like Tekken 7 looks great. This looks even better. But this doesn't. When I saw this didn't make me say like, wow, yeah, this can only be on PS5 or Series X. There's no way you could really even get a build of this on PS4. If you said, oh yeah, this is Tekken 8 for PS4, I would have been like, wow, this looks pretty great for a PS4 game, but I wouldn't say like, yeah, that's PS5. Again, it's just, I don't know. I just feel like everything's just kind of like, it's just kind of like gray and black and dark and just kind of nothing really pops, like it doesn't, the backgrounds are kind of not muted, but I don't know. I was just kind of expecting just more spectacle. It's Tekken. Tekken is a little bit flamboyant. I felt like it was a little bit. I don't know. A lot of people disagree with me, and that's totally fine. I feel like maybe I'm missing something. I don't know, but when I see it, I'm not saying it doesn't look good. I'm not like super impressed. Like the models.
It doesn't
good.
look like the graphical update that it should to you at this point.
Yeah, looks good. It does, but I don't know. I was kind of for Tekken. I was expecting a little bit more of a jump than what we got.
Yeah, I think that in terms of the visuals, if you really sit and compare, and I wish I would have grabbed the comparison image to show, but when you really look at the difference, you can kind of see it. Unreal Engine 5 is a little bit more detailed in terms of the body and the face. The skin tone is a little bit more natural looking too, as opposed to 7. A lot of people make the joke about Tekken 7 that everybody's infected with kidney disease because everybody's skin has a bright yellow sheen to it, and it's noticeable when you look at the comparison shots. But yeah, Tekken 7, I'm going through that right now, and it's a great game. It looks fantastic. So when I saw the first trailer that they showed, that initial gameplay footage where they show Kazuya and Heihachi fighting next to the volcano, it looked good, but like you said, it didn't look that much better at that moment than what we had already been introduced to in Tekken 7. But I think the later trailers that they showed with the characters, really just honing down on each specific character that they're adding, like King and Jin. Those trailers really have stepped it up a little bit in terms of visuals, and it does look a little bit cleaner. But like you said, it still has a bit of way to go. And I think the developers are clearly voicing that they wish that Unreal could offer more at this point. But like you said, it's very early on for Unreal. I kind of feel like this is history repeating itself a little bit with Unreal, because back I want to say about 15 years ago when Unreal Engine 3 debuted, it was kind of very much the same story. Well, everybody had dev kits, they weren't finished. It wasn't really showing off Unreal's true potential, and then Gears dropped, and that was like the first real example of what Unreal is really capable of. And I feel like we're kind of getting that again with Unreal 5, how they keep releasing these packs that add features and whatnot, but we're really not getting the true Unreal experience. And I see that repeating again. I feel
apparently we're really not. Apparently, when Unreal Engine 5 really gets going, a lot of the stuff that's really expensive for current hardware, like real-time ray tracing and maintaining ray tracing with the high frame rate, like 60 FPS, and even high resolution on top of all that. Apparently, when Unreal Engine 5 really gets going, it's gonna supposedly be able to like offer that. It was like, how are they gonna what we're dealing with now? How are we gonna go from that to all of a sudden you're saying that games are gonna be 60 FPS with ray tracing and like a high res? Apparently, yeah. So I'm, obviously we're not there yet, but once we do get there, and like you said, like with Unreal Engine 3, as we all know, once Gears dropped and we really started running with Unreal Engine 3, it was like, sky was the limit for that time in hardware. I totally see the same thing happening. I'm hopeful. That's what really needs to happen, I think, to really kickstart this generation once we get away from cross-platform development.
Yeah, I think once we leave that generation behind and we really just start focusing on current gen PS5, Xbox Series X, and S, um, we'll really start to see the real meat and bones of Unreal Engine 5 and what it's capable of. Once we don't have that last generation, stagnating development, I think really we'll see what it's capable of. Let's move on to our next topic. This one is going to be one of our headline main topics. Super Mario Brothers the movie is already breaking several records, and it's only been in theaters a day and a half, two at this point, since we're recording on Thursday. It has the biggest opening day ever for a video game adaptation in the US. It has the biggest opening day ever for an animated movie in 11 plus markets. It is also the second biggest opening day ever in Central America, behind Avengers Endgame. Let me just read off a couple more statistics here. This is coming by way of IGN. The Super Mario Brothers movie box office is expected to rake in $141 million on opening weekend. So basically, according to Universal, the Super Mario Brothers movie has earned $31.7 million in North America on Wednesday alone. Globally, the movie raked in $66.4 million on opening day. For an example, movies usually open on Friday, meaning Super Mario Brothers the movie has a 2-day head start in comparison to other opening weekends. For Friday through Saturday alone, the movie is estimated to bring in $92 million. This is pretty big. And Ernest, what do you think about these figures? And do you have any desire to see the Super Mario Brother movie?
I think it's awesome. I think these figures and these numbers look great. But I will say this, though. Nintendo marketed this movie. I heard about this movie. I saw it, not because I'm into video games or because I'm here or there. It doesn't matter what this movie was everywhere. It was promoted all over the place. So that's how you got to do it. When you have confidence and faith in your product, you market the hell out of it. I mean, it's a big deal too. It's a Super Mario Brothers movie. I mean, they're also releasing it at a really good time. The weather is it's getting real nice out. People want to go hang out, have something to do.
Spring break.
Check out the Super Mario Brothers movie. I mean, it looks, at first I wasn't really into it because I saw the trailer and I'm like, I don't know. It's just kind of it's cool. It looks like it's kind of it's geared towards a younger audience, which in some ways, well, it should be. It's a Super Mario Brothers movie. I mean, what are you going to do? But it's colorful and it looks fun. It looks like a movie that if I'm bored and I feel like I want to go out and do something, but do what? I don't know. Maybe I can go see the Super Mario Brothers movie and it's it'll just be a fun movie to watch. Nothing too crazy to have to focus on or remember or get into. Just grab some popcorn and just kind of relax in a nice air-conditioned theater. It looks like a fun time. So I went from not really being interested to, I don't know, I think maybe I might actually go and see it. It might be fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it. I don't know if I'll get a chance to this weekend. I might wait until Tuesday because I have the day off. And traffic should be a little bit slower at the theater on Tuesday, since we'll see. I mean, it's still spring break period, but most kids should be in school by then. So I'm hoping the traffic die down will be good, at least enough to enjoy the movie without kids screaming during it and talking.
Kids
so
are
yeah,
hyped for this movie.
oh, definitely. My son won't stop talking about it.
Kids are
He's
hyped
ready
for this movie. It's
yeah, it's Nintendo and Illumination and Universal did a great job marketing this movie. It is literally everywhere. I drive past the Honda Center, the Arrowhead Pond, and almost daily. And as you head northbound, you cannot miss that huge billboard with everybody Mario Karting right next to the freeway. So it's everywhere.
Honest, seeing that billboard every day, it's every day I see it, and it just
brings a
I
smile
don't
to
know.
your face.
It's doing something to me.
Yeah.
Creating this weird internal buzz for me.
So I think that these are fantastic numbers, and I really do think that this is kind of a turning point, hopefully, with video game adaptations being taken seriously. You see The Last of Us getting a lot of shine right now. Super Mario is apparently breaking records right now. and setting records. Um, and this is going to do well. So it's going to be inevitable until we hear about the shared universe with Metroid and Zelda. And if all goes well, hopefully they build that up to a crossover Smash Brothers movie where they all join forces. That would be cool. I would really dig that. I think I would dig that more than my son. But yeah, these records, it bodes very well for video game adaptations. Clearly, there's a market, especially with comic book fatigue starting to set in a little bit. Marvel has kind of been in the dumps the last couple of years with, their them just churning out constant content for either theater or streaming. It's just all too much, and I think people need a break from that. And especially with DC, all the nonsense that's going on with DC too. I think people are just getting tired of it, and video games are the next big venture, I think, in terms of adaptations. Mario is definitely going to do gangbusters. I think it's going to have life too. I think we're going to see it in the top spot for at least a couple of weeks. And I'm pretty excited. I can't wait to see it. Our last topic for today is going to be in discussion about a rumor that is currently making the waves online. So this is definitely not what we are talking about, but this picture is an example of a remote play device that PlayStation markets. Basically, the rumor states that Sony is currently developing a new gaming handheld. The handheld, which is codenamed Q Lite, is going to be coming to market sometime next year, with development now starting on the hardware. It is said to require a PlayStation 5 console. It is not cloud streaming and will utilize remote play via PS5. Allowing gamers to access their PS4 and PS5 catalogs via remote play to this portable device. It'll support adaptive streaming as well, up to 1080p and 60 frames per second, states the rumor. It will require a constant connectivity. It will require constant connectivity to the internet as well. And will somewhat resemble the look of a PS5 controller, and will feature an 8-inch LCD touchscreen in the center. This unit is scheduled to be released before the rumored PS5 Pro/Slim redesign that has been circulating the web for a while. And more can be read at Insider Gaming. Ernest, what do you think about PlayStation entering back into the handheld fray?
I'm not buying this thing. Like, if it's even real, I think maybe it's Sony's way of kind of like dipping their toes back into the handheld market. But I mean, I don't know, who is this really for? If it's online, it requires an internet connection. You can't really. You can bring it in. It's almost like the Wii U gamepad. Like, you can bring it anywhere, like kind of like within your house, which is kind of cool, kind of novelty. However, if it's gonna kind of mimic the DualSense, and that's it means that the expense is gonna be. It's not gonna be a cheap device. And if you're going that level for just to be able to maybe take it to your bedroom if somebody's using the TV or whatever, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's kind of a hard sell. I think, like, at that point, for that money, probably just get a OLED Switch, or I don't know, what I mean, something else. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I think that this device, well, here's the thing. When we say requires a constant connection to the internet, are we saying that it's going to have 4 or 5G built into the console? Because that didn't work too well for the Vita. I remember the more expensive version having 3G, and that really didn't take off like they thought it would. Mainly because the plans were really expensive. Granted, there are mobile plans now that offer unlimited Wi-Fi, data, whatever. But Yeah, having to be constantly connected to the internet defeats the purpose of a mobile device, to me, anyways. Sure, our phones, they're connected to the internet at all times, but that's your phone. You know what I mean? This is not. This is a device that I would be using in lieu of my phone while I'm waiting for a pickup or to drop someone off or in line somewhere. I don't want to try to have to struggle to find an internet connection just so I could play my PS5 games. And then at best case scenario, this kind of just seems like you said, the Wii U controller. If someone's using the TV on where my PlayStation 5 is set up, and I want to go play PS5 in my bedroom without having to lug that 14-pound box into the bedroom, I could just take that little portable device and play on the couch or play in bed, or even play on the can if I'm taking a dump. But you know, I don't see any real practical use when you're sitting in traffic or on the bus or any place that doesn't really offer a Wi-Fi signal. I think data plans would be too much, and it would eat up too much data quickly to have to stream this via a 4G, 5G network. That wouldn't work at all, because then you have to deal with the lag and all that stuff that's inherent with streaming. Um, and even if you've ever tried net play or remote play, and let me tell you something, my son utilizes remote play all over the network from the PS4, playing from the PS4, and remote playing PS5 to the PS4 so he could play in the bedroom while all the girls or in the living room watching Coco Melon or whatever, right? And even then, when you have massive hardware potential as the PS5 and the PS4, there's still a great deal of lag and artifacting that happens, because it's requiring the network. And if you have cable during peak hours, that could slow down, and it's not ideal. I honestly don't know, Ernest, who this device is for.
That's exactly how I feel. Like who, and it's not like this is going to be a cheap device either. This is going to be
Mm.
expensive as hell. And it's like, if I'm going to pay all that money and then you're telling me that it requires a constant internet connection, thus negating the benefits of it being a handheld console, then like, I don't understand. Like Sony is like, they can't be this dumb, right? Like,
Right. So the
shouldn't some-
add-on that I showed right now, Ernest, this add-on right here, that uses your cell phone, right?
yeah.
And that's called the backbone. They have an Xbox iteration, a regular mobile phone iteration, and a PlayStation branded iteration, which is what we're seeing right here, which allows for easier access to remote play functions. It has the triangle, square, circle, cross PlayStation setup, as well as R2, L2, R1, R2, start and select and whatnot. All the options that you would expect from a PlayStation controller. And you can remote play from PS4, PS5 as well. This add-on for your phone already costs typically $100, just for the backbone controller setup, not for your phone as well. So if we're talking about making a device that is solely focusing on remote play, because that's what it seems like they want the catalyst of this to be, is to really pitch home the use of remote play, because Sony's been trying to pitch remote play since the PS3 era when PSP came out. That's how long they've been trying to preach the gospel of remote play. It's been around for a while. So with this unit, I don't really know who it's for. It says it all sounds great in theory, 1080p, 60 frames per second. That's great, but then you got to stream, and what's adaptive streaming? What is that? Is it going to know ahead of time what I'm going to? How does it know when I'm going to do ahead of time? Like to prevent the artifacting. You know what I mean? Like typically that happens when you like jog left or right real quick, and it's like the refresh rate's not there, and the streaming is trying to catch up with the device that you're streaming from and inputting and whatnot, and it's a mess. I do not want a device that is solely remote play. I think that if I I'll tell you what I would do if I was PlayStation, Ernest. I would release a device that's based on the slim PS4 standard. And I would get a way to make that as small as freaking possible. And if we're talking about playing PlayStation 5, well, PS4 isn't that much different at this point. A lot of the games are ports. So if you could find maybe the PS4 version and scale that to maybe a 720 or 1080, I think at this point we can make a 1080p handheld. If we could do, our phones and play games in 1080, we should be able to have a PlayStation console that plays PlayStation 4 games. What do you think, Ernest?
Yeah, I agree because on a smaller screen, you don't technically like you could get away with 720p because again on a smaller screen, it's less noticeable, and then that would like kind of help with performance. So if you had like a miniature PS4, but then it's like, well, but because of the resolution, and honestly, a lot of PS4 games, not all of them are 1080p. A lot of PS4 games are actually 720, or they have
Mm-hmm.
variable resolutions that will change
Right.
depending on what's going on. And so, but I just that could be kind of cool, but Sony would have to really support it and not have proprietary memory,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of because the Vita was like awesome, and everybody to this day they love their Vitas, and Sony just like they did not give it much time at all. They just immediately
Yeah.
and so people are burnt from that. And then me personally, with this whole thing, how it's like got to be tethered to the internet, I just feel like, you know what? That's kind of like the excuse I'm looking for to be like, I think maybe I'll crack open a book or something. I'll just lay back. Well, I don't know. If I want to play PS5, I don't know if I'm like that desperate where I'm going to spend like $4, $5, $6, whatever $100 to get this device where it has to be like, it's cool.
Yeah.
I'll read a book or I'll just do something else.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. And then when I'm ready to like sit down and actually play a game, because PS5 games, this generation gaming, they're getting more complicated, more complex. It's not like back in the day we had a Super Nintendo where you could just kind of casually play it here and there. A lot of these games now, you gotta be like, you gotta be ready. You gotta
Yeah.
be focused. You gotta sit down and like be ready to like play and get used to the controls and spend a couple hours getting past the tutorial and all that stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, and then what's the battery life going to be on these things? There's just no way around
That's
getting
another
a
good question.
screen and dealing with the weight, the heat, and the battery and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Like, if this rumor is true,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, Sony. I don't know. Like, show me something. Show me something good.
Yeah, I think the track history is not good. I was an early adapter of PSP because I worked at Sony at the time. Vita came out, and they kind of did the same thing that they did with PSP that they did with Vita. They, early support was strong, the hype was there, and then it kind of just tapered off once you kind of learned about the proprietariness of their whole ecosystem, and it's kind of off-putting. PSP had Memory Stick Duo, which was a proprietary, memory stick, and they supported UMD, which was a proprietary format, especially when they were trying to pitch movies on UMD that were lower than DVD quality and only played on one device, and sold for as much as the DVDs themselves. When you can just rip the DVD and throw it on a memory stick, defeated the purpose of really hyping, and they kind of just tapered off. And they did the same thing with the Vita. They introduced the proprietary storage for games again, which is not unexpected because it's cart. But then they went and introduced those proprietary memory sticks again for PS Vita, and the market couldn't. Their market, Sony, couldn't keep up with creating the proprietary drives at the same space as SD as quickly as they could. So that began to taper off. And now you see SSD cards, 64 gigabytes for PlayStation Vita going for like 190 to like $140 when you can just get the adapter and buy an SD card up to like 250 gigabytes, and do whatever you want, ROM it, mod it. And yeah, I just don't see this being a positive for Nintendo. I think they want to get into the Switch market, but they don't want to make it look like they're copying Nintendo 100%. And they don't want to create exclusive games for this console. I think that they just want to use the games that they currently have. It's money saved on resources that could be better spent elsewhere. But these notes for this rumored controller or handheld is not it. I think we would agree on that.
Yeah, and maybe their plan is not for it to be like a whole big thing. Maybe it's just supposed to be like, this is not like for everybody. This is just, but then why bother? Why stretch your resources thin like
Right.
that? Like, if you're gonna do it, just like do it. They could have had success with the Vita. People love it, but they didn't. So like, either do it or not, or just don't bother with this. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they have plans that we're not aware of, and we'll see. Time will tell.
We'll see. So I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Ernest, where can people find you?
As always, you guys can find me hanging out on Twitter at Emperor_Ernest.
And you can find me at Moses, IVVIOC, on Instagram and Twitter. You can also follow at The Cultured Nerd for all your updates and relates to movies, music, gaming, and more. That's going to be it for us today. Thank you very much for joining me today, Ernest. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate your views. They mean a lot. And thank you very much. That's going to be a wrap. Go ahead and give us a follow on patreon.com/The Cultured Nerd. Look for this show's tier. Your support is greatly needed, and it keeps the lights on. The show is running. Please visit that show. You can also support all the other Cultured Nerd shows as well. We want to give a shout out again to Ernest Johnson for joining me today and helping me host this show. We look forward to seeing them back next week. We want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters, Wesley Ishlabeck, Connor, Anna, Salib, Oscar, Craig, Mitch, and Steven. Want to give a shout out to Jose Navarro at at Navarro and Jose M. And we want to give a shout out to Michael Melillo for creating the intro graphic and all the backspace or background graphics as well. Once again, thank you for joining us today. If you like this show, give us a click on the thumbs up. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button and go ahead and scan that QR code for more Cultured Nerd news and stuff, some cool stuff. So go ahead and scan that. It's good stuff. Thank you very much. Thumbs up. Have a great day.